banned champions in the LCS right now. He has such a big impact in terms of the mid game, being able to save those individuals with his ultimate. He's also scales very well into that split pushing role, depending on how you choose to itemize. And now if you're Fnatic Academy, ooh.
Yeah, spicy pick here with the Varus, something we're not really seeing that much at all on 7.5. Moved away from, of course, with the lethality changes and the changes to Varus directly. So an early AD carry lock-in with a lot of AD carries still left on the cards here for PSG. Wouldn't be surprised if they answer with something like a Jhin of their own, or even wait for the next rotation. And Ezreal, Lucian, Jhin, they're all still on the cards.
Fascinating that Paris Saint-Germain have actually focused that support pick in Zyra rather than going for the AD carry, because this is now going to give Fnatic the freedom to pinch that role, take away champions like the Ashe, the Ezreal that we've been seeing a lot more recently. And they're also going to get themselves the bottom lane. So I think Fnatic Academy are pretty happy with this. They still have their jungler and their mid laner left available. Elise is still on the cards as well, so Fnatic could look to pick themselves up. But if you're Paris Saint-Germain, you need to start pinching away those junglers to try and move Amazing away from some of its comfort picks.
Yeah, even with the Varus lock-in as well, I think it will be a struggle for Fnatic Academy actually to shut down Pilot's pool too much, with Lucian and Ezreal being very strong on 7.5 and the Jhin there as well, even Caitlyn. So many options for Pilot on that AD carry role just in isolation to still be pretty strong. It is going to be the Caitlyn ban and a Kha'Zix ban here from PSG, so they are focusing that jungle role that you talked about, Vedius.
I wouldn't be surprised if we did see... Oh, okay, never mind. It's actually going to be the Lucian ban. We have seen it arise a little bit here in Europe. We've seen it more so over in North America. And it is a pretty potent early game champion that can have a lot of impact. Reckless yesterday demonstrated what you can do when you are able to get an early lead, and your ability to out-trade in a side lane, should you want to trade that as well. It will leave champions like the Ezreal open, along with the Ashe that we were discussing earlier, Jhin too. I think Paris Saint-Germain aren't going to be too upset with the amount of options that they have available.
Not at all, especially with how comfortable Pilot is on this Ezreal. It's his most played champion across his entire career. So I'm really not surprised at all for them to pick this up early on. Rales here has gone for the jungle pick in the Rek'Sai. Now we're going to see a mid lane counter. It is an Orianna pick for PSG. What can Fnatic pick into that will try and shut that Orianna down?
Ooh, well, I like the fact that they have chosen Orianna because of how safe and well-rounded she is. It's deterring Nisqy away from going for the Cassio, but he's actually going to shift it up for an assassin. Now, the great thing about Echo is, with his huge amount of mobility and his ability to go off onto a side lane, Fnatic have set themselves up for a great 1-3-1 composition, where you can even shift who your side lane focus is with the Rek'Sai. Because of the ultimate that she has, she can join the fray from the other side of the map, but Echo is considered one of the strongest duelists, and in this game in particular, there are going to be very few answers for Paris Saint-Germain should he get a good early lead and then transition into that side lane later on.
And it's a huge step away from the norm for Nisqy as well. We're so used to seeing him on those control mages, on the Ryze, on the Cassio, on the Syndra, on the Orianna. Actually, one of the mid laners with the lowest damage per minute out of any mid laner in the Challenger Series. And here they've given him someone who needs to carry, who needs to get ahead, and who needs to be putting down those big damage numbers.
Well, excuse me, I'm going to disagree with you slightly there, because I personally feel that Nisqy actually, his preferred playstyle is duelists. He prefers the skirmish style, he prefers the 1v1 style, and even though he has picked up champions like the Ryze and the Ori in the past, I feel like his most comfort is Syndra. His most comfortable is Cassio, and he does like to try and make those outplays, even if he isn't as successful as he would like to be.
Well, we'll have to see how successful he can be into Blanc, one of the safest mid laners in the Challenger Series. Guys, make sure you're getting involved as well, tweeting at us with the @LOLEsports tag. If you think Paris Saint-Germain are going to win it, it's hashtag PSG win. If you think Fnatic Academy are going to take game one of this series, it's hashtag FNA win. Now with both of the rosters set up here, Vedius, as we get onto the Summoner's Rift, I just want to get your thoughts, really, about how these rosters play out against each other.
Well, I think that it's going to be an exciting matchup regardless, because right now, this is going to be our first game of the split, and I think that when you look at these two compositions, what we're seeing from Fnatic Academy is very much a 1-3-1, right? Their whole goal is to move Nisqy off to a side lane, have Kikis in the other side lane, and then you just have the immense wave clear of Varus and the peel from Tahm Kench to just hold the line while the other two side lanes apply pressure. For PSG, they're very much about setting up sieges, they have good poke, their wave clear is incredibly good, and their team fighting is overall, it's just a very strong team fighting composition. So PSG, they're going to be looking to fight a lot around these objectives. They spike very hard around the mid game. Orianna's looking to get a 2-item spike. She either goes for the Morello into Haunting Guise, or perhaps the Morello into Luden's Echo. If she's feeling a little bit zesty, she could even go Morello into Deathcap.
A little bit zesty.
Yeah, and same for the Ezreal. He's looking very much towards that Trinity Force Power Spike, and it's around this 2-item mark where PSG will really start to shine, and this will give Fnatic a bit of room to breathe, because they also have time to get themselves a lead within that first 15 to 20 minutes, and if they do, then PSG will struggle to have answers, because you can't really move Blank off to a side lane, because it's difficult for him to collapse, especially when Niski's running this TP in the mid.
However, we have seen a lot of Nautiluses be able to deal with side lane pressure, especially if it's just a single carry. You've got the Titan's Wrath, you've got that shield, and White Knight has shown time and time again that he's pretty effective at doing this. We're going to see an invade here by PSG. And we've always, well, recently seen these fights over vision around the Razor Beaks. 3 members of PSG stealing away just a couple of those smaller ones to deny experience away from Amazing. Good smite as well by
Kirei is able to get it. So this is actually a great start for PSG, especially with Kirei playing this farm-heavy jungler. It's also going to give him priority over the red buff. Now, if you are Amazing, you might just have to accept the fact that you've lost your buffs, and you're going to have to give away your 3 buffs and do whatever you can in terms of just clearing as much of the jungle, maybe even take a bit of lane tax.
You do have smite advantage.
He's not actually going to give up this red buff. I like this from Amazing.
It's smart from Amazing. He knows he's got smite. He knows Kirei doesn't, so he's able to get there, steal away, get that level 2 as well, and force Kirei to have to flash away.
Kirei was afraid of the collapse from Niski. The level 2 advantage to Amazing was really good awareness, as you rightly said. The smite in favor of Amazing allows him to just walk up, take away the red buff. He doesn't have to concede that objective at all. There was no support from the rest of PSG for Kirei. And even though Amazing's level 4 will be slightly delayed, Kirei is going to be delayed as well.
That it is, and has burnt that summoner early on. Graves, of course, looking to try and farm up a little bit early on in these in this sort of composition. He wants to be able to get towards that level 6, get a couple of items under his belt. We're talking about the 2-item power spike for the majority of PSG. However, they scale pretty well later on into the game as well. PSG, of course, in the early portion of the Challenger Series, played the early game incredibly well. Were able to get massive gold leads time after time, but we saw them throwing a lot of the time when they got later on. Here, they've got a composition that works around the team fights, works around objective focus, and we're going to have to see if they've been able to get rid of those woes that they had earlier on in the Challenger split.
It's great of you to bring that up, because when we look back at PSG as a team, one of the biggest issues that they always had was actually pilots over eagerness. He was always an individual during the regular season that was about trying to force stuff in the mid game by himself. I remember him on a Sivir tower diving in tier 2 tower. I remember him in his final week versus Millennium, where he literally just tower dived solo on a Caitlyn, right? This guy is keen to dive under towers. He must think that they're swimming pools and then mistake them for, oh, they're actually giant blocks of death. So he ends up getting caught out. It actually gives his opponents large windows to be able to fight back. And it just seems to be an issue that he's had throughout the split now. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for a single opponent. We'll have to see if he's adapted.
Amazing is so low here. Has to flash, get to the blast cone as well. Kirei tries to quick draw in. Won't quite be able to get the kill, but even though Amazing got that early pressure onto Kirei, Kirei's actually got the level advantage here.
Well, remember that Amazing did lose that jungle camp, whereas Kirei didn't. This allowed him to get the level 4 mark after stealing some of Amazing's Raptors, along with clearing his top side and the red buff. So it was just unfortunate that Amazing happened to meet Kirei in that part of the jungle, and he cannot win that trade with such a big level disadvantage. But this is a good start for PSG in terms of early pressure. The gold at the moment, though, is still very even.
I think the next few minutes actually really define how this game is going to go, especially for Fnatic, because we've seen Amazing over the last couple of weeks has really focused up towards that top side of the map. Kirei's actually coming in for a gank mid here. Not going to be able to get too much out of this, does force Niski back. Kirei spends the least time of any jungler ganking his lanes early on, or at least the least time near his lanes early on, whereas Amazing spends almost half of his time in proximity with one of his teammates, and most of that time is with either Niski or Kikus.
And right now, Kirei is just preventing Amazing. War play style of just setting his laners up for success is actually going to be great for PSG, because you can see Blanc, he's doing a great job of not falling behind Niski, who's now actually down in the bottom half of the map. Just getting a bit of deep vision down, we'll be able to spot Kirei out.
It's definitely a tough one. Niski already getting that, as you say, getting that vision down with the He's playing champion for Kirei, and Kirei will have great awareness of where Amazing's going to be in. The fact that Amazing likes ganking this top. Kikis is playing this Shen, which isn't the sort of conventional carry that we're used to from Kikis.
Well, I mean, it's still, it's difficult to say with Kikis, right? Because he makes tanks look like carries. I mean, I just think back to his week 1 performance on the Maokai. He's always about just exerting so much pressure that he feels like a carry, because he's always getting these fantastic flanks off. He's always showing up at just the right time in the right place, and he was the reason why Fnatic Academy are so impressive with what he was able to do. And he was actually drawing Maokai bans. He was forcing the enemy to just constantly target him and stop him from being able to carry. Now but we saw him do it on Echo as well. Remember back where he went for that Lich Bane Echo build?
Yes.
It's very much just, he seems to be a jack of all trades. And now that he's playing Shen, I feel like it's a bit of a combination of the two. And the big question for me is, how well will PSG deal with Kikis, given as to how consistently he has been performing?
See a bit of an adaptation here from Fnatic as well. They realize they can't really get too much down in the top lane, so Amazing and Cly are now starting to roam more as a jungle support duo, trying to get some vision down, see if they can spot out the enemies. And this is actually facilitated by the fact that Cly tends to get the earliest sight stone of any support in the CS. Hasn't got it yet, but I expect him to be in the next 30 seconds or so, looking to get back, get that sight stone, and then invade once again with Amazing.
Well, the difficulty Clyde did have was that early on in the laning phase, he was experiencing a lot of harass from both Pilot and Sprawl, very powerful bottom lane duo, which means that he did decide to actually go back and grab himself some boots so he could get some health pots as well. The mobility will also help trying to kite around all this extra poke that's coming out from the bottom lane of PSG. And we have already spoken briefly about the bottom lane of PSG. And again, it's very much focusing around what Pilot will be able to do. Has he rectified some of the issues that has plagued him throughout the Challenger Series? For those that don't know, he and Blank did actually come off of from Jin Air Green Wings over from the Summer LCK to here in this split. And this is part of why there were so many expectations on them, right? When you have such talented individuals coming over from Korea, combined with some of the European talent, expectations happen to be very high. But over time, they've rectified their communication issues, and they have gotten better, even if they aren't quite perfect just yet.
Look at the vision control coming out from PSG here as well. Actually, Chain of Corruption used by Mr. Wallace doesn't connect onto Spassel, but vision around mid lane is so vital for PSG because they know Blank is on a low mobility mid lane on this Orianna, and they want to make sure Amazing can't get in for the gank. So they had a control ward on the top side, they had a control ward on the bottom side, and they could just spot Amazing on any path that he decided to take.
Right now, Amazing, he just gets spotted on the Raptor. His steal was not successful. He has now reached level 6. And so far, PSG, things are going just the way they want them. They very much have a composition that spikes around the 15 to 20 minute mark. They're a comp that is very much around looking to fight for things like the Dragon, like the Baron, look to these 5-on-5s rather than going for the skirmish style of play. And the fact that Fnatic haven't quite yet been able to force anything. We haven't seen a single gank from Amazing yet. And it's simply due to all the pressure that Kira has been putting down onto Amazing's early jungle.
It's intelligent play by Kirei because he knows Amazing wants to gank, and he knows that if he goes for those invades, it means that Amazing can either choose to go for the ganks or choose to defend his jungle. And if those ganks don't work, Amazing just falls further and further and further behind in gold. And it means that Amazing just hasn't had the opportunity to gank because he's always wondering, where's Kirei? Is he going into my jungle? Is he stealing away my Raptors? Is he stealing away my Krugs?
Right now, Kirei is spotting out Cly. A lot of vision control around this river for the side of Fnatic. Priority is on trying to make sure that they can secure this early Dragon. It's a pretty slow start.
It's expected as well, though.
Of course,
because,
of course.
Last week we came into the series and we said Schalke should win this. You know, they were dominant, and it was very much a surprise that it went in favor of Misfits Academy. Great play to them, but here, I think most of us came in and said, we're not quite sure who's going to win this. PSG have looked a lot stronger, but Fnatic with Amazing and Kikis have really stepped up again. So both of these teams look very even coming into this series, and I think that's what we're seeing play off here, especially with the compositional choices. Both of them scale relatively well into the mid and late game, so they don't need to go for this early action.
And there's no need to rush anything, right? You can still take your time as Amazing is coming in for this dive.
Teleport comes in, counter TP as well. Stranglethorn's down, Spraddle caught out, and he's going to be left for the Wolves as Fnatic Academy get first blood.
5-man unit Fnatic Academy secure first blood and first tower in the bottom half of the map. You can see Kire on your mini-map moving up towards the top side, trying to trade this tower back in their favor. This is a good move from Fnatic, utilizing the level, the ultimate from Kikis combined with the TP on Niski. He'd already pushed down mid, so it's harder for Blank to punish him. And this will result them in a very early advantage. This is what we wanted to see from Fnatic, though. We wanted to see them try and get ahead and try and get Niski some gold so that he's better set up for the side.
What I like about this play as well is, up until now, whenever Fnatic have got ahead in the early game, it's been off Kikis' back. It's been off Amazing going up towards that top side. We'll have another look at this and just explain why this is so well set up by Fnatic.
So, just keep your eyes on the mid lane, right? Normally what you would want from your mid lane is to actually push it out, but he's just moved off to a side lane. The teleport already comes through. You also have the Shell ultimate on top of Amazing, and PSG, this is the risk that you run playing against a Shen composition. Often what you do see is people will preempt this play from happening and they'll move their duo up to the top side and they'll force the tower trade that way so you don't end up losing any kills. The problem for PSG is though they didn't read the play, they thought that they could keep extending the laning phase, as we now see Blanc getting caught out in mid.
Niski doing quite a bit of damage with that Proto Belt, but it's traded back by Blanc. He's in a pretty strong position with the Morello's finish now. You talked about him perhaps going towards the Luden's Echo. He's going to have to watch out for Kikis who flashes in. Niski knocked up with the Death Charge as well as White Knight goes in for the chase. All of PSG are here and Niski jumps back into them. One kill for PSG, they're looking for more. Kikis doesn't have flash, doesn't have a way out, and doesn't have a hope as PSG collapse around him. He's going to try and delay them for as long as possible. And actually will be able to shadow dash across the wall, but he's running into an awful situation.
I was watching the minimap thinking, what are PSG doing? There are 3 members of Fnatic Academy in the top half of the map, pushing down onto your tier 1 tower, and you are just meandering away into the enemy jungle, but the plan was to come for the collapse onto Niski. And just as he is about to escape, you have both the Zyra and the Grave just lying in wait, ready for him to use that Chrono Break and to catch him unawares to get themselves a kill in the mid lane.
Equalizes the kill score, also equalizes the turret score. We saw Pilot take one bot. Fnatic Academy were able to react top and actually defend their mid tower as well with the Abyssal Voyage. Kikis got away with the teleport, but that's another big summoner spell down.
The reason why that was a fine play for PSG as well is because they'd already gotten a lot of chip damage down onto that tower in the bottom lane, which meant that Pilot could take it by himself regardless. He would take it in about the similar or just a little bit slower amount of time, so they could afford to send those members to the mid lane and get themselves that kill down onto Niski. This is going to be great for the Orianna moving into the mid and late game because she's already completed the Morello Nomicon, and while Niski does have his Proto Belt, that deficit in experience and in terms of gold will make it harder for him to move off into the side lane later on.
Starting to approach that mid portion of the game, 15, 25 minutes in. And the items are beginning to stack up for PSG here. They've got a Mana Moon finished on the Ezreal. He's got Ninja Tabis as well. As we said, Blanc has the Morello Nomicon. However, playing into a Yumu's, playing into a Proto Belt. Which team is actually stronger when we get towards these 20-minute fights?
Well, in terms of a 5v5 fight, I'd definitely give it over to PSG. Once that tier is fully stacked, that's really the key moment. Rallis, he's already hit a pretty potent spike, given that he's completed the Ghost Blade. So PSG, they have to still wait a little bit longer before trying to fight a full 5v5. But if you are looking at terms of a skirmish, Fnatic Academy have a much quicker way to react. They have the double teleport while it is on cooldown for now. You also have Kikis' ultimate. So that 3 versus 3 is going to very quickly turn into a 4 versus 3. Oh, Tom Kench has ultimate as well, 5v3. So that's why PSG have to be very mindful of where they look to force these fights, how they force them, how they set them up, because it is very easy for Fnatic to turn these fights into a numbers advantage in their favor.
See PSG reacting to that and trying to get vision control, especially around the river, around those areas where the Abyssal Voyage could come in. They haven't been able to move that ward line up past the river yet, but both teams understanding the majority of the time where the entire enemy team is just because of good vision control. Look, there's a few control wards sitting in inventories for PSG, there's a few out on the map. Neither of these teams have really been able to deny too much from their enemies yet.
It's still a very even game. Towers are even, gold is pretty even, kills are even. It's what you'd expect from a game 1 of a best of 5, teams still warming up. You can't really make the argument that they're new to the LCS stage because we pretty much only got veterans. For those that don't know, White Knight was actually a player that was played for Team Alternate back in Season 3. That was a very long time ago, and he's still been playing regularly ever since then, 4 whole seasons. And now he's back on a team that's within arm's reach of making it into the promotion tournament, maybe even make it into the LCS. And it's great to see that he's been able to keep up. His performance has been such a turning point for the lineup of PSG. And right now, he's already off to a kill. He's got a slight CS advantage. He's doing a great job so far in this game.
And you have to remember, when he subbed in for Team Alternate as well, he wasn't playing top.
No.
He was playing mid lane, he subbed in for Pharrell Lord, he was playing AD carry, he subbed in for Creaton. One of the few players who's played multi-roles at a professional level. And at the moment, top seems to just be his niche. It suits him incredibly well. Understanding those other roles obviously will help as well, but he's having a whale of a time up in that top lane. It feels very much at the moment like both, as you say, both the teams are trying to feel out the opposition, work out exactly where their minds are, where their intentions are, how they're going to play the rest of this map. It's almost like they're just saber-rattling at each other.
Saber-rattling?
Yes.
Could you please expand? I've never heard of the term saber-rattling before.
So I'm trying to move away from saying aggressing or trying to like put pressure down.
Right, right.
And so saber-rattling is this great term that originates in the Chilean Wars at the early 20th century, sorry, 1900s.
Are you sure now? Because
Yes, 1928 was the exact time, and it was to do with the Chilean army, who would, whenever they disagreed with a political stance taken by one of those dastardly politicians, would rattle their sabers in their scabbards as a point of disapproval. Now it just means two teams facing up against each other, not quite being able to make the play, but wanting to, being angry.
So, for the past week, while I've been rattling my saber at you, you haven't been getting the message at all, you haven't been seeing that.
Your advances haven't gone unnoticed, Vedius.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that they haven't been ignored. But right now what we saw is Fnatic, they were tired of rattling their sabers. Instead, they tried to force a play down bottom. We saw the ultimate come out from Clyde. He wasn't quite able to land anything successful as Pilot meandered his way through the crevices, through the cracks, and was able to get out unscathed.
And this is one of Pilot's strengths. As much as we say sometimes he's over-aggressive, he is very safe when he needs to be and when he's able to communicate with his team. Both he and Blanc probably have been a couple of the safest laners all round, just in terms of being able to understand where the enemy is. And actually PSG setting up perhaps to get behind this tower, but Mr. Rales and Cly are able to defend it for the time being.
Just tracking what Kikis is doing right now, because this Shen ultimate could be key in Fnatic trying to force a fight. You can see that he's already started to push up the top lane. White Knight is hanging around mid though. Remember what we talked about, the ability for Fnatic to very quickly make this a 5 versus 3, a 5 versus 4, thanks to the Shen ultimate, thanks to the Tahm Kench ultimate, and that's forcing White Knight to just be with his team because he will not be able to get there as quickly if Fnatic are the ones to force this engage.
However, sometimes when we see these sort of 1-3-1 compositions with the double teleporter, with the Stand United, the team that is splitting off into a separate lane actually loses the fight just because of the pure damage that comes out from the 5-man stack. Is that a possibility here? Are we going to see people burst down even with the Stand United shield, or even before the teleport can help them join the fray?
Well, right now, no, because Orianna, she still hasn't yet completed her core build. Same for the Ezreal in terms of burst. It's definitely there, but it's difficult when you think that there's the Tahm Kench, there's also the Echo ultimate, there's the Shen ultimate as well. It's surprisingly difficult to just burn through the lineup of Fnatic as quickly as you might want.
And I think PSG have realized that they're still not taking these fights. The Devour, so easy for Clyde to get people away. And I feel this Tahm Kench, obviously very strong, and this composition also was kind of picked to counter out the Ashe, because that pick ability with the Enchanted Crystal Hour is very strong, and Pilot has played Ashe very comfortable on that champion, so just forced him away from that. Instead here on the Ezreal, one of the AD carries we've really seen to rise to prominence in 7.5 alongside Lucian.
Yeah, I think his poke is pretty great. I played against one the other night, and I was just sitting underneath my tower, minding my own business, and then boom, my health is gone. Bjergsen also experienced a similar experience last night when he went up against Doublelift. But for now, PSG, they're using their advantage throughout the river that they've gained thanks to their superior vision control, but now they have to be careful because they can't escape this.
It's a very tricky situation for Blanc. Does have flash, will flash over the wall. Amazing coming for the flank. Kyrie and Sprazzle on the wrong side of dodge. The shockwave comes in. Here's the TP as well. Niski half health. Chrono breaks away. Amazing. Now called out, but Kikis is there to try and help him. PSG just trying to run for the hills after taking that dragon earlier on. They're going to get down underneath the tower that is only rubble. No defense for them at the moment. White Knight in the front line. Kikis gets on Kyrie. Still looking for the kill. No one's done. side, and Fnatic just can't quite reach far enough onto the PSG backline to get a kill.
Fnatic couldn't quite find the fight that they were looking for. It was a little haphazard, different people going in at different times. The target focus wasn't as ideal as they would have wanted, and it's such a slippery lineup for PSG because they have all of the escapes from Pilot, you have the dashes from Kirei, you think about all the CC that White Knight and Sprawl have to disengage as well. It is very difficult without a clean, coordinated attack from a three-pronged setup for Fnatic to be able to lock down this PSG lineup, and it will result in PSG getting themselves the Ocean Drake and walking away without losing any members.
It's these tiny advantages that can make the difference in a game like this. Sometimes it's just the fact that you throw everything at PSG and you don't quite get the kill, you don't quite manage to get it, that instills a little bit of fear in you, because you know that later on that Orianna's going to have more damage on the Shockwave that hit two of you. You know the Ezreal is going to have more damage with the Blade of the Ruined King, with the Trinity Force, with the Manamune. And you know that even if you get what almost seemed like a perfect flank fight for Fnatic at the start of it, even if you get that, perhaps you won't kill anyone.
That's the difficulty, but for PSG this is perfect because they're still stalling out, they're still waiting for those item completions, and there's the Trinity Force. Pilot, he's now feeling a lot more confident. The level 12 mark has been hit, so he has 2 points in his ultimate. He's almost maxed that arcane shift, which means that he's going to have so much more mobility in these teamfights as well. Blanc working towards that Luden's Echo, and there it is. There is the fully stacked Manamune. And now PSG, this is the go button. This is where they start to say, right, let's try and force these fights. Let's clap our hands together and see if we can force Fnatic into an uncomfortable situation.
Well, they've got a big objective to try and force around now. Mid lane tower's still there if they want to take that down. Actually, they're looking up towards top as Kairi is going to get onto Niski for just a couple of seconds. Looks like he's just forced him away and didn't do too much, which is why the camera didn't switch across there. I apologize, guys. Just looking at the minimap too much. It's the curse of a support.
Curse of a support, always there. Trying to help out his teammates, but Fnatic used this as an opportunity to try and push down mid. They weren't quite able to get any damage down because the wave cliff from Blanc was still there. But out of your Fnatic Academy, the goal of your comp was very much to get Niski to a point where he could easily draw pressure to the side lane. And right now, PSG don't feel that fear. You're very much just sitting in mid lane, wave clearing. They're not afraid of the Baron being started because they have full vision control around it. It's interesting that PSG have actually been sending Pilot off into a side lane to deal with Niski because of the mobility that Pilot has. And his surprisingly good trading power as long as he stays back at a distance, just mainly uses poke. But now the focus is this mid lane tower. PSG, they have their poke, they have their wave clear, and now it's competing against the wave clear of Rales and this Varus.
Yeah, Varus does have great wave clear though. It's one of the reasons we saw him picked up so much a couple of patches ago. Wave clear, long range poke. If you get that Manamune stacking up, you really have no mana issues as well. So it's a difficult road for PSG to walk, and once again, we started to see this 1-3-1 composition enacted by Fnatic Academy. No Tiamat or even Titanic Hydra finished on Kikis yet, so his push is going to be a little bit slower in that bot lane. White Knight should be able to push him out if he goes down there, but we do see Pilot getting forced back by Niski.
I wonder if he'll work towards a third item GA, as opposed to maybe a more split pushing build. So, given that he's currently sitting on the Null Magic Mantle. Right now, though, we have to be careful this dive mid.
Amazing's going to dive in. Parallel Convergence comes out, but Blanc just dodges around it. There's the Stranglethorns. Cly is in the back, though, and Blanc will get wiped down. The Stand United comes out as well, and Fnatic will use this as the trigger to take down the tower.
Successful collapse for Fnatic. They're realizing, look, we need to try and make things happen. We know the White Knight is down in the bottom lane. He is being forced back thanks to Kikis. We know that there is a top wave pushing in our favor and that Pilot and Sprawl have to go and deal with it. This is a great window for us to force a dive down mid. And they're able to get a successful kill down onto Blanc. Really good setup from Fnatic, but unfortunately it doesn't net any objectives. But now look at the flank TP coming out from Niski.
TP coming in the back line, amazing flashes in, onto Pilot, onto Kairi. Cly there as well, but Mr. Rales is low, as is Cly. The TP's coming in, Niski's gonna look for a 1v3 play, because Cly is dead, as is Mr. Rales. Here comes Niski, what can he do? Well, Kikis joins the fray. 2v3 in favor of Fnatic as they get one kill, but White Knight's here now, and he's gonna chase off Kikis. Fnatic will have to back away, it's a 1-for-2 trade.
It was Fnatic that forced that fight initially, but it is PSG that turn it around. They're not afraid of Amazing engaging by himself. The teleport was just too far away for Fnatic to be able to quickly capitalize. It was such a good engage from Amazing as well. But PSG, they read the situation and they knew how well they could respond. Now look, you can see it's a three-pronged attack. You have Amazing from the flank, Cly zoning off Spraddle, and then you have Nisqy coming in from the flank, but he takes too long to get there. PSG, they ignore Cly, they focus down the jungler, and Pilot with a really good ultimate to clean up that kill. Now he can't get away because of a good flash taunt from Kikis, and the fact that White Knight, he didn't even use his TP to join that fight, which arguably was a bit of a mistake, but still, they end up with overall 3 kills for 2 after Blanc ended up going down from that earlier tower dive. But note that it was PSG that got that mid tower. It's PSG that overall come out with the kill advantage. It was PSG that are currently sitting on the gold lead.
Nisqy's jumped in, will get caught up with the grasping roots, but devoured down. Cly there as well. PSG looking for the fight. Kaime flashed in. White Knight's here as well with the flank. He's used his TP, and there's Cly going down. Nisqy's going to have to flash. Amazing caught up with the dredge line. They're going to chase onto Nisqy though. PSG a little bit at ends here as to where they want to prioritize their damage. We'll get the kill, and they'll turn their eyes towards the Dragon.
The thing is, for Fnatic Academy, they're grouping up around this Baron, and that's exactly where PSG want to be fighting. Remember, 20 to 25 minutes is where this composition really turns on for PSG, and the moment they see you grouping up around this objective, their eyes are like, let's force something, let's try and make this fight happen because we know we will win. And it's PSG that once again, they get themselves another kill, they get themselves another objective, and their control over the game just grows and grows.
And we said in picks and bans, Nisqy wanted to be skirmishing on this Echo. He hasn't really been able to do that. They've all been 4 or 5-man fights that he's having to try and navigate around. We've never really actually seen that 1-3-1 comp take a corporeal form. There were times when it looked like they were starting to go into 1-3-1, but they've never really maintained it for a longer period of time.
I think it was impressive, though, the way in which Fnatic utilized this Shen ultimate combined with the Echo TP to force a lot of these dives. I just felt that perhaps earlier on they should have tried a few more options. They should have tried a little bit more to be more proactive, to get those earlier leads with which it would have been harder, excuse me, for PSG to be able to respond. If that tower dive had happened at the 10-15 minute mark, how much more at a deficit would Blanc now be at, right? You'd be able to, you'd have a level 11, maybe level 12 Nisqy, who he has an item advantage over his lane counterpart. Now he's much better equipped to move off into a side lane, but I think that Fnatic, they're a little bit too slow on the mark, and now they've got to a point where PSG are the stronger team. They have reached a point where they just straight up do more damage. They've hit these big power spikes, but it doesn't mean that it's over yet for Fnatic.
It feels, though, just the way we're talking about it, very much like it's the end of the road for Fnatic. They're just going to keep losing out the scaling battle, assuming PSG play safe and continue just to get golden items under their belts. Is there a way Fnatic get back into it? Is there a hope?
Well, we talk about scaling, and yes, PSG, they have a great scaling teamfight composition, but if Nisqy were to get to 3 to 4 items, like, no one can duel him. It doesn't matter that he's sitting at, I mean, he's sitting on a good scoreline, right? He's 2-1-0. The Lichbane and the Protobelt have also been completed. You're just now buying time in order to wait for the split push really to turn on. Make sure that, hey, Kikis, he's now working towards that Tiamat. He's going to get themselves the Titanic Hydra. You also have Nisqy off in the side lane where, if you can just divide PSG up, prevent them from being able to set up around this Baron, set up around Dragons, that is Fnatic's win condition. If you're PSG right now, though, you need to take advantage of the fact that you're so much stronger, and you try and force things around the map.
That's what they're doing. They're forcing onto Nisqy again. Stand United into Chrono Break will keep him alive for the time being. The Abyssal Voyage comes in as well, and now Pilot needs to be careful because he's caught between 4 members of Fnatic. Jumps the wall. Kikis tries to get in there with the taunt. Can't quite land it. There's the Strangled Thorns as well as PSG disengage. Blanc will get the Shockwave down, but only lands on Cly. They'll take him out before he can even pop the thick skin. And PSG collapse and get a kill.
The problem for Fnatic is that if you have Nisqy off in a side lane and PSG is sending 2-3 members to go and deal with him, that is when you use your composition to push onto another objective. You push down mid, maybe you push down bot, but you look to try and trade. Like, sure, we lose our side lane pressure, but we get an objective off the back of it. Instead, Fnatic tried to collapse. They tried to respond to the aggression from PSG, and that is what is enabling PSG to win these fights.
Nisqy's going to get knocked up once again. Kaime comes in with a flank, and Nisqy's in an awful position. That's taken down by PSG. They'll continue to chase. The Blast Cone gets Amazing and Kikis out of the fray. Now
PSG, they move straight towards that Baron. They have full control of it. Look at all this deep vision around the top half of the map. In fact, they might not even risk it. They can just prioritize taking down this tier 2 in the top lane.
I much prefer this play. Last time we saw PSG go for a Baron when the enemy jungler was still up. They lost it. They were making bad calls, especially in that Schalke series when they were ahead. They lost because they made some bad objective calls here. Safer, take the stand and gold, take the tower down, and later on you can win a fight and then go for the Baron.
But if you're PSG now, what you do is you notice that you have a pushing wave down bot. You have top lane that's pushing in your favor. You group up mid, you reassert yourself around the Baron because of your great vision control, and you start to play around this objective. You start to threaten it because you have a lot of good Baron clear now. 3 items are being completed for the side of PSG. That, if we could just toggle the vision for PSG right now, I really want to highlight how much control they have over the top half of Fnatic's jungle, because it is just immaculate. The fact that they win this team fight and then they very cleanly set up all of this control just perfectly sets them up for the Baron. Look, if they want to go for the Baron right now, they're going to very easily spot out exactly where Fnatic are. They can respond very easily, and they don't need vision control around the bottom half of the map, because what's the worst thing they can do? Send 2 members to try and kill White Knight? By the time they kill him, PSG could have killed the Baron, had a family, built a house, raised a steady income, and then invested in their grandchildren. It's going to take ages to kill this tank.
What would you get your steady income from? That's the question. You're going to force PSG down that footballing route, you know, following the steps of their forefathers?
I mean, perhaps.
Can they play squash? Can they play rugby?
Who knows? Right now, all they care about playing is League of Legends, and that's why their eyes are on the Baron.
And they're going to start it up. Pilot and Kyrie there. They've cleared out vision. However, you have to sense that Fnatic think something's going on. Amazing's going to void rush towards it. They put down the long-range totem as well, and they will spot out PSG, so they just disengage. And I feel this is very much more PSG growing over the split, because in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the split, PSG would have continued to go for that Baron, and they would have thrown around it. They would have got 4-man parallel conversions into 4-man taunted into, you know, dead. And I think there's a great comparison to be made as well between PSG and Schalke, because PSG tasted failure early on. They tasted defeat early on, whereas Schalke never really tasted that defeat and then lost out later on. Kickers is going to stand united in. Blanca's got the kill. White Knight's coming in with a teleport behind as well. They do get the tower. Fnatic just going gung-ho. They've taken down 2 kills already. Kairei's the 3rd. PSG reacting all over the place. Now Pilot's trying to get in, but Niski's going to follow him across. White Knight trying to play that White Knight for the team. Fnatic are just going to get chased away from the turret, but they can go for Baron.
Fnatic, they just run down mid. They take advantage of the fact that Pilot went off to a side lane. He does not have that teleport. He is not quickly able to join the rest of his team. And with Blanc still having both summoner spells up, he just gets caught completely unawares. Now, can PSG stop this Baron from happening?
Niski's low, does have Chrono Break. Pilot and White Knight trying to do what they can. Depth charge is up as well. Gonna knock it onto Niski. He jumps back in. Phase dive goes low. Almost gets taken out. The Devour will keep him alive. The Baron goes down. Fnatic secure the big purple worm.
All 5 members alive, and Fnatic walk away with the Baron. The tower was low, and they thought to just look at the positioning of Pilot. He's stuck up in the river. He's trying his best to get to his team. But PSG, they don't leave the tower alone. They get dived underneath it without respecting the engage from Fnatic. And with a great 2-man taunt and with 5 members, the tower doesn't mean anything. Fnatic with such a great decision to take advantage of the mispositioning coming out from PSG.
The Pilot was in that Dragon Pit by himself for a while. They'll realise they can't take it now as Amazing comes across. Although all the PSG are in the vicinity, so they might just try to go for a fight here. Amazing will smite it and then just burrow his way away. A lot of that last fight comes down to the fact that Niski has hit that 3-item spike we were talking about. Zhonya's, Proto Belt, Lichbane. He can now jump in and out of fights relatively easily and use that Zhonya's to help the Stand United complete and get Kickers into the fray.
But it's also about their ability to just converge as a 5-man so much quicker than PSG is. And early on, we didn't see them take much advantage of that. They were sending Niski off to a side lane, and then he was often the one that was trying to get collapsed upon by PSG, giving them a lot of pressure around the map. But then what Fnatic realized is, hey, at the moment we see Pilot top, or the moment we see Blanc move off to a side lane, we can actually just force a tower mid. We can just force a play, because PSG will be able to wreck way slower, just like here in the bottom lane.
Forcing bot, White Knight will flash and jump away. The turret is the target, though. Fnatic will secure themselves their 4th tower of the game.
But look at how quick this is. 4 members instantly in the bottom lane. There is no answer from the side of PSG because they just can't rotate this quickly. Add to the fact that there's a Baron, and Fnatic can just very cleanly steamroll their way through all these inner towers of PSG.
However, you have to feel that if all of PSG are there for a fight, they'll be able to win it out. Look at the damage that Pilot is just putting down onto Amazing. He's got the Blade of the Ruin King. He's got his completed Mura mana. He's got the Quicksilver Sash. He's got a Last Whisper. He's got a Trinity Force. This Ezreal is sitting at that 4-item spike that we always talk about.
I think PSG as a 5-man unit are certainly strong, but as of right now, it's getting harder and harder for them to be able to successfully force these fights. Look at where the vision is right now for Fnatic Academy. You can see there is a ward right in the middle of the lane. You can see all these flanking opportunities available for Fnatic to utilize this double TP to catch PSG off unawares. And it's because of this good control and this understanding of the way in which they should force these fights that is making it difficult for PSG to just run down mid and make something happen.
Well, 35 minutes in, Fnatic have been able to secure themselves about a 2,000 gold lead. It's not massive, it's not monumental by any stretch of the imagination, but they're on the front foot and they can continue to aggress in this 1-3-1 push. We see Niski in the top lane, we see Kikis in the bot, and Kikis has that big bannered up minion as well, so he's just getting Bob back on the Rift and stopping White Knight from being able to claim out. Of course, White Knight doesn't have a lot of AD, so won't be able to take down that siege minion very quickly.
Oh. Bob will just draw a lot of pressure.
Is it a different name for Challenger Series? That's my question.
We can call him Frank if you want.
Frankly, I don't actually care too much about it.
I'm glad. But now, this is the 1-3-1 that Fnatic were desperately setting up for. Now we can see a 4-2-1 Niski, level 18, 4 items completed. This was the possible win condition for Fnatic Academy. And who now goes off onto a side lane? Oh, Pilot. What does that mean? Oh, Fnatic. One slight overstep. All 5 members end up mid lane. Somebody dies. Pilot can't respond in time. And this is the difficulty with PSG's comp. Yes, it's great for team fighting. It's great for playing around these objectives. But if you ever fall behind ever so slightly, you get divided and you're going to get conquered.
It's the speed with the double teleport, with the Stand United as well. They're just so quick around the map, and Fnatic playing to their strengths. Niski's going to try and set up perhaps a bush into which he can catch Pilot. That's exactly what he's intending to do. Jumps in, can't quite land the parallel convergence. One of the strengths of Ezreal, obviously, is his ability to jump away with that arcane shift. He's got the QSS as well, so he is a very slippery fella to try and catch onto.
Now, Baron has ran out, but Fnatic, they're still sitting on a reasonable gold advantage. The question is, where can they look to push it? They're still setting up this 1-3-1. They haven't quite yet broken into any more of these inner towers. And PSG, they're just doing what they can to hold off. They're just buying themselves time. And they're waiting for that big 5v5 team fight, but I don't think Fnatic are ever going to give it to them.
How do you force that as PSG at the moment? You know, we said in Picks and Bans, they've got great wave play. You've got Ezreal, you've got Orianna, you've got Graves, you've got Nautilus. You can clear these waves for days, but all Fnatic need to do is get one auto attack in here or there. And slowly, bit by bit, they can choke PSG out of this game.
Well, what you can do is you can you push up bot lane, you have Blanc and you have Spraddle act as wave clear and disengage mid, and then you try and go for like a flanking movement with White Knight, and then you have Kira and Pilot invest onto Niski, because if you kill him, that split push threat then disappears, and you have more room to regain control of the map. And if you can just move away from your towers, if you have a little bit more map control, a little bit more freedom, that's where you can look for a window. But it requires a coordinated assault onto a single member, and you have to have a setup in place to prevent Fnatic from being able to just run down mid. So you need to have the wave clear of Blanc, but you cannot just leave him on his own, because then you have the same scenario that you had earlier, where you have 3 members or 4 members just collapsing under him, underneath his tower. So that is one option that they have, but right now they're just... The alternative is you just group up 5, and then you push mid, and you force a 5 versus 3, and then you hope Niski TP's in, and then you assume that your vision control is good enough that his flank TP won't be enough to turn the fight in their favor.
Well, I feel objective fights are probably going to be on the menu in the next couple of minutes. We've got Baron coming up in just a minute's time. We've got Elder Drake in 30 seconds. Both of those incredibly impactful, even for those 5v5 fights. Now, Niski and Kikis are still in the side lanes here, and Fnatic were not quite reacted to PSG grouping as 5 in mid. Actually, looks like Pilot's going to split and White Knight's going to split as well. So PSG decide they can't get anything out of it. Just go back to try to react to the 1-3-1.
So the problem that Fnatic have right now is that even with this great 1-3-1 that they've set up for themselves, their vision control around, in particular the Baron, is not actually that strong. I think their focus is mainly on this Dragon, because you can see there are no blue wards in the bottom half of PSG's jungle right now. And Fnatic Academy, this means that they have full control over this Elder Drake. It'll force PSG to come and face check it, but now PSG, they're making this play onto Nisqy, and maybe if they get a kill, they can turn it into a Baron.
Nisqy does still have teleport though, the play does come out. Fnatic have started up the Baron. 2 long-range totems are going to be swept out by the control, but PSG just goes straight for the Baron. We already see Mr. Rollis trying to run up and react. The Abyssal Voyage available for Clyde. Nisqy can look for the steal. 2 members of Fnatic continuing with the Elder Drake.
Remember the kick as he has his ultimate. Here comes
Nisqy jumps in, doesn't get it. Kyrie smites it, Nisqy jumps out. Now Clyde caught out and PSG are on the hunt for blood. Clyde gonna get taken out by PSG. They get a kill, they get Baron, and perhaps they get away back into this game.
That Elder Dragon does go down in favor of Fnatic, but they go for a trade, and it ends up with a Baron in favor of PSG. This is going to give them so much room to stall. While Fnatic Academy, sure, this is a pretty valuable Elder Dragon, the thing is now, PSG have got exactly what they need to be able to just group up as a 5-man unit mid and push. Because I don't care how strong you are in a side lane. If you've got a Baron-empowered Frank with a 5-man unit, you're just going to easily break into the base of Fnatic, especially with 1 member dead.
I think technically we should call them John Smith because there's so many of them on the map and that's the most common name. But Fnatic are just going to 2-man push down here. They've got teleport, mid inhib, tower goes down, as does inhib. PSG are just going to push in. We've seen base races recently in the LCS and those did not work out for Fnatic. Perhaps they made a misplay once again. Nexus tower the target. Amazing is here. Nisqy still pushing in. Kikis has joined the fray. Nisqy's going for it. He's on the inhibitor. He's looking for those Nexus towers, and PSG realize they cannot quite take down the base yet.
The thing about an Elder Dragon is if you try and go for the 5v5 fight, you're not going to win against that. This is what Fnatic are using in their favor, but PSG, they said, look, we can try and force it. There's another fight in mid.
Amazing caught out, devoured up. PSG just stopping the backs. TP coming in, Nisqy with the flank. Can he get onto Kyrie? Can he get onto Pilot? That's who he wants. He gets Straddle instead. Nisqy low. Zonya's low. Pilot jumped on by Kikis. And now they've already got 1 kill. Fnatic going to fight the 4v5. But now that Blanc is here, Nisqy caught out. And Nisqy shut down by PSG.
Great hook from White Knight to be able to make the fight a 1-for-1 overall. Both teams end up losing an inhibitor. Both teams end up losing a Nexus tower. And what should have been a great trade for PSG, Fnatic just respond beautifully. They're able to hold on to their Nexus, they're able to make the trade fair, and the game continues to be even. This is what we expected from this series, Medic. This is what our anticipations were, and by word, these teams are living up to them right now. So, amazing. He's just trying to stop the backs. He's just trying to prevent PSG from getting back to their base, and they think that with the poke they have from Rales, and the constant back and forth they have with Kikis, and the flank coming in from Nisqy, this can be an easy fight that they can go in their favor. But what they don't factor in is how much time they actually buy for Blanc to then rejoin the fray. They don't have a minion wave to hide behind, and Nisqy, he's slowed down long enough for White Knight to land that hook and end up resulting in a fair for a 1-for-1 trade.
I cannot believe we've got an inhibitor and a Nexus tower down on one side. We've got an inhibitor and a Nexus tower down on the other side. And Fnatic played to their composition. You have to give them credit. They waited, and they knew that Nisqy, with that Lichbane, with the Void Soft, with the Rabadons, was able to take down a Nexus tower.
I think both teams have been playing spectacularly this series. I think that you're seeing both teams understand what they need to do with their compositions. They're responding very well to the decisions that the enemy team is being made to try and get the best case scenario. The fact that PSG went for the Baron rather than trying to fight over the Elder because they had no vision control around it. The fact that Fnatic sent 4 members back to hold on to their base, and they used the additional team fight power that an Elder Dragon gives you to stop the push, and then have Nisqy dive in on the bottom lane to try and go for the base end. It was just these small decisions constantly reacting to one another that's making this series great. And it's only game 1. We've got at least 2 games left.
I want to come back to talk about Pilot though. Kikis going to get caught out. He would jump the wall. Pilot is 6-1-1 on this Ezreal. He is popping off at the moment. TP's going to come in, looking for the flank play, but they will be able to get away. Coming back to Pilot, we've talked about how sometimes he's over-aggressive, sometimes he gets caught out, you know, sometimes he mispositions. In this game, his positioning has been incredibly strong in team fights. He's been playing out of his skin.
And you could argue like, hey, yeah, you're off in a side lane when you shouldn't have been there, but who else can you really send to go up against Nisqy? Because if you send Blanc, he doesn't have the same sort of mobility than Ezreal does. So one slight overstep can result in his death. So Pilot makes the most sense to go off to a side lane, which means that when Fnatic forced these fights down mid, when Pilot wasn't there, that wasn't necessarily his fault. That was just him dealing with the situation that they had been put into. So
it was a decision from PSG.
Exactly, right? So he definitely shouldn't be criticized for that. And I definitely think that he has made a lot of improvements. The fact that he's only got 1 death under his belt right now, and that was a death that he couldn't really avoid because it was a big team fight and all that. But I think both teams are playing very well. The goal is even. We're hitting big item spikes, and the win conditions are still the same. Fnatic Academy, they're in a much better position to set up for the 1-3-1. It's now even harder for Fnatic Academy, or sorry, for PSG, because they're sending Blanc down to a bottom lane, because he's the only one that has enough wave clear to deal with the super minions. And Fnatic, they can just keep their main wave clear mid, which means that you have Nisqy off on the side lane, you have Kickers off on the other side lane, and now there's that bigger threat that if you try to commit to an objective as PSG, then Nisqy can end the game, because he has the Death Cap, he has the Lich Bane, and treading through those towers and the Nexus is going to be like cutting through butter for him.
It's a waiting game now for PSG. You have to think they'll be looking for this Baron in a minute and a half. The Elder Drake, of course, a minute after that. And they'll just be waiting it out. They know they've got a strong team fight. They know as long as Nisqy isn't able to assassinate Pilot or isn't able to assassinate Blanc, they should be able to win out the fight later on. Across the board, they just have a little bit more damage as well. If you look at the damage dealers for Fnatic Academy, it's really only the Echo and the Varus. PSG, you've got the Orianna, you've got the Zyra, you've got the Ezreal and the Graves, who can all put down quite a substantial amount of DPS in these fights. The question is, though, will Fnatic allow them to take that fight at Baron, or if they go for it, will we just see Kickers and Nisqy forcing an objective somewhere else?
Well, that's the big question. You can see Nisqy, he's still sitting in the bottom lane. Inhibitors have respawned for both sides. The eyes, the prize for Nisqy, I don't even know where I'm going.
The eyes
Nisqy,
on the prize for Nisqy.
Exactly, that's what you're the play-by-play. He wants the inhibitor, that's what he wants to kill. The fact that Blanc is now being sent to a side lane to deal with him is going to make things difficult. But it's just, it's so tense right now. Both these teams, remember, winner of this series secures a spot in the promotion tournament. Yep. We already know that they will join Origin, Giants, and Misfits Academy. Who plays who is yet undecided, because Giants are the ones that get a decision in all of that. And honestly, they'd probably choose Origin if they had a choice, but for now, this is why it's...
This is it.
Yes, exactly. So that's why you're seeing these teams, they're not trying to rush anything. They have plenty of time, but you want to try and get that early win, not only for a momentum swing, but to better set you up for the rest of the series, so that you almost have a fallback, a safety net, in the event that one game goes horribly wrong.
I think as well, we're seeing the fact that all of these players are experienced at this level as well, to some degree, because it would be very easy to get to this point in a game and make a bad call because you just think you have to force something. Fnatic Academy have denied vision. True Shot Barrage will come out here and will spot out the Baron, but I don't actually think PSG can contest. They're looking for Nisqy, though, in the bottom lane. They're going to see if they can collapse there. Baron's going to go across to Fnatic Academy, and Nisqy now needs to see if he can slip his way away. Caught up, the Stranglethorns comes down. He's jumping over the wall with the phase dive. Proto Belt as well. And Nisqy escapes Baron and freedom for Nisqy.
Very easy decision for Fnatic to make. They sent Nisqy off to bottom lane so that if PSG try to fight for the Baron, they're going to end up losing their inhibitor. So instead, PSG, they tried to get a kill down onto Nisqy, and they say, look, if we can take the Baron empowered minions off of him, then our base defense becomes a lot easier. They can't do that. They can't get the collapse. They lose the Baron. And now you have to think that things for PSG start to look very bleak. Fnatic, they have this 1-3-1. They've already started to set it up. And Fnatic are slowly working their way into the base of PSG.
But the call that PSG made there was, we think if we give them the Baron, we can still defend. Because otherwise you just all go for the Baron and you say, yes, Nisqy might get an inhibitor out of it.
Yep.
We can always teleport White Knight back into the fight if we need to. So PSG still think, perhaps they misplayed around vision, they shouldn't have given up the Baron, but they made the decision to allow Fnatic to have this Baron buff. How do you defend?
Well,
do you just wave clear with Blanc and Pilot?
I mean, that's the only thing you can do, right? Like, unless Fnatic overcommit and you can end up getting a kill.
Kairi is now the one...
Wave clear.
Kairi is now the one facing up into Nisqy, though, which is odd because we've seen there was a portion where it was Pilot, then it was Blanc for a little bit, and now they're saying Kairi is the one who can deal with this Echo threat. Well,
Graves, at this point in the game, duels pretty well. He has a lot of items under his belt, a lot of farm as well. However, we do see the Tahm Kench ultimate. They're just swiftly moving down to the bottom
It's
lane.
the speed of rotation that we talked about before. White Knight caught up, Kairi there as well, but it's a 3v2, and PSG have responded. They're looking for more, they're looking for a fight. They force Fnatic Academy back. Pilot still up in the top lane, Shockwave on 2, the dredge line onto Kai, not the target you want. The catfish will survive for another day. Nisqy stepping forward, amazing there as well. Nisqy almost jumps in, Chrono breaks out. That's a big ultimate to be down. Fnatic unable to take the inhibitor yet.
Fnatic, they're getting antsy right now. They try to force the play down in the bottom lane, utilizing the speed of rotation, but that's not as effective when the enemy team are forced into their base. They don't have to make a big map movement. They just have to move a couple of meters down to the inhibitor they're trying to defend. Smart from Pilot to stay up in the top lane, to 1v1 against Rollers, to prevent him from moving into the tower range and start knocking on that down. PSG, successful hold. And if Pilot was there, that could have very well been a team fight win for PSG, but instead, they've just been able to stall out the Baron. There's only a minute left. But for Fnatic, their eyes are on the Elder Drake. They're going to look to get themselves another objective, but could PSG look to defend?
They may be able to. They have got the wave play. We've talked about it time and time again this game. Everyone's hitting those 6-item spikes. Blank's on 6 items, Pilot's there, Kyrie's there as well. He's got an Infinity Edge to round out this build just for pure upfront damage on that Graves. You've got 6 items on your tank, you've got 6 items on your support, you've got 6 items everywhere, Vedius. And that is what PSG are going to try and use to defend, because they obviously feel getting into this incredibly late portion of the game, they just have the stronger composition, they have the stronger team fights, they have...
They're just grouping mid. I wonder if they're going to run down 2 members of Fnatic Academy down in the bottom lane. I don't know if White Knight can hold on to this 1v2.
He's tried to 2v1 before, he'll knock them up and he'll jump back around. Both the teleports are here. Nisqy jumps in with a phase dive. That's an inhibitor dead, but the dredge line will come out. Nisqy, of course, does have that chrono break available if he wants to jump around. Spuddle comes in, PSG trying to react. Amazing jumps onto Spuddle. Stranglethorn's down, Nisqy forced away from the rest of his team. Will chrono break back into them? The Zonya's used. He is not in a good spot. Devour takes him out. Stag United as well. They're trying to save their mid laner, but will they save the game? Kikis is in the front line. He's going to go down into GA. 1 member already dead for Fnatic, and they're running for the hills as PSG manage to collapse and take down 2.
That is a 70-second death timer on top of Kikis. Clyde, he is dead for another 50 seconds. The question is for PSG, can they run it down mid? Can they get themselves that inhibitor? Because with Nisqy always having this teleport available, there is always the possibility for him to go for that flank and go for the back door.
Both of these teams are strong in the late game, PSG especially so, but this is the longest game we have had this challenger split. Amazing, no flash, of course. He tried to jump into that last fight. Nisqy, though, trying to get onto Blanc. Zonya's, here's Pilot. Nisqy's dead, and Blanc survives. Fnatic Academy once again routed at the last chance, and PSG will look to push in.
That could be it. Fnatic Academy right at the end. Rather than use Nisqy to try and go for the back door, they try for the base defense. With these death timers, PSG, they could look to try and end the game.
White Knight's just tanking up. There's no minions, so that tower is pretty tanky at the moment. Amazing jumps in. White Knight down to half. The tower's still alive. Amazing. Hooked in once again. The shockwave doesn't connect onto Wallace. Clyde's alive. He's going to try and defend with his life. PSG going for the Nexus. They're so close to game 1 of this series, and now take it down. PSG go 1-0 up.
Such a close game between these two teams. PSG, they had the early leads. Fnatic, they found a good fight where they forced a dive mids. They get themselves the ban. The 1-3-1 seems to be unstoppable. But then PSG, they're always finding answers. They're always finding ways to get back into the game. And then it all comes down to this final decision from Fnatic. They feel like, we cannot break through the wave clear. We cannot find a way into the enemy base. So let's just take advantage of our map movements. Let's take advantage of maybe we can quickly take the inhibitor bot. They commit too hard. They get collapsed on. PSG get the team fight win that they were so desperately looking for. And bam, game over, instantly.
It's so close, and you have to think that had worked for Fnatic for so long in that game. Having those 2 people in the bot lane, Nisqy and Kikis. We saw Nisqy got an inhibitor and a Nexus tower the last time they tried that. And then just the one time that PSG react ever so slightly quicker, Fnatic lose it all.
It was a great game, really enjoyable. Pretty long, but it just goes to show like how back and forth that first game really was. Now that PSG are leading the series, they're going to be feeling pretty confident. But as we said, there's a lot of veterans on this lineup for Fnatic. They definitely know what defeat feels like. And different to the Challenger Series, they have a lot of room to be able to bounce back.
Only one player on that team that hasn't played in the EUCS, which is, of course, the player whose name I've just totally forgotten. Niski, that's the one. I had it in my head, and for some reason, then Kyray's name jumped forward. It's like, no, it's not Kyray. But yeah, only Niski not played in the LCS, and he had a very strong game on that Echo. I was doubtful when it was picked because of how low his damage has been across the split, but he was able to make those assassination choices and able to flank very well. Fnatic Academy, although they lost the game, their decision-making and their macro play looked very strong.
I was very impressed. And speaking of damage, just for context, that Zyra actually did more damage than anyone on the side of Fnatic. And he wasn't even the highest. He was one of the lowest damage dealing members on the side of PSG. So you could really see that gives sentiment to the amount of poke and wave clear that this lineup for PSG had, which is what made things so difficult for Fnatic. And I feel like that for the majority of that game, they made all the right decisions. They had the Baron, they had the Elder Drake. Like, I think arguably that Elder Drake swap was the risky one, because what would have been better is if they'd made that Baron play earlier on. So rather than investing all their vision bot side, they actually invest it top side. They force PSG to go for the trade between Elder Dragon and Baron, and perhaps they would have been able to break into the base a little bit sooner.
Well, we're going to take a quick break to catch our breath, but fear not, our beautiful faces will be back in 3.5 minutes for Game 2 between Paris Saint-Germain and Fnatic Academy.
You want to play? Like, we can win without him.
No balls. I'm just here for the looks.
Stranglethorn's down, Spraddle caught out, and he's going to be left for the Wolves as Fnatic Academy get first blood. Keeping coming in the backline, amazing flashes in, onto Pilot, onto Kyray, Cly there as well, but Mr. Rales is low, as is Cly. The TP's coming in, Niski's going to look for a 1v3 play, because Cly is dead, as is Mr. Rales.
I hit turret.
Go, 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 go. Forward, forward, forward. Forward, forward, forward. Forward. Got it.
I'm in.
Nice.
Dash. I'm gonna...
They're going to fight the 4v5, but now that Blanc is here, Niski caught out, and Niski shut down by PSG. Stand United as well, they're trying to save their mid laner, but will they save the game? Kikis is in the front line, he's going to go down into GA, one member already dead for Fnatic, and they're running for the hills as PSG manage to collapse and take down 2. PSG going for the Nexus, they're so close to game 1 of this series, and now take it down. PSG go 1-0 up.